Hello, and welcome to The Explainer. Okay, let's just dive right in. So imagine you've got a data set. Maybe it's the number of friends each user has on some social network. The big question is, how do you take that raw list of numbers and turn it into something, well, useful? Right now, it's just a jumble of values, right? Kind of useless. So the very first thing we need to do to make sense of all this is to find the center of the data. So what we're really trying to figure out here is, what does a typical user even look like? And, there are a few different ways to tackle this. We're going to start with the one you probably remember from way back in school. And that, of course, is the mean. You almost certainly know it as the average. It's kind of the go-to starting point for most people, and for good reason. It's super simple to calculate, and it boils everything down to one single number that represents the whole group. I mean, the calculation is a piece of cake. You just add up all those friend counts, divide by how many users there are, and bam, you've got your number. Easy enough, right? But, and this is a big but, is it actually the best way? Well, it turns out the mean isn't our only option. There's another really powerful tool for finding the center, and that's the median. Now, with the median, it's a totally different approach. Instead of calculating anything, we're literally just finding the value that's right in the middle. And the process for this is super straightforward. First, you line up all your data points in order, from smallest to largest. Then, you just pick out the one that's sitting smack dab in the middle. Oh, and if you happen to have an even number of points, no big deal. You just take the two in the middle and find their average. And this right here, this highlights the single most important difference between the mean and the median. See, the mean gets yanked all over the place by extreme values. We call those outliers. But the median, it couldn't care less about them. And trust me, we're going to see in just a minute why this is so critical. Okay, so finding the center is a great first step. But a single number, whether it's the mean or the median, really isn't the whole story, not even close. We also need to get a feel for the shape of our data, its distribution. And the way we do that is by using something called quantiles. Honestly, the best way to think about them is like signposts or maybe markers that help us map out the whole terrain of our data. They tell us what value marks the 10% point, the 25% point, the 50% point. You get the idea. So, if we look at our friend data again, we can see some really interesting stuff. For example, 25% of all users have 3 friends or fewer, and 75% of them have 9 or fewer. All of a sudden, we have this much richer picture of what's going on. Way more than a single average could ever give us. All right, so we've got the center, and we've got a sense of the general shape. But there's another piece to this puzzle. Are all the data points kind of bunched up together, or are they spread out far and wide? Now, the simplest way to get a feel for this is the range. You just take the biggest value and subtract the smallest value. Done. Super simple. But, simple isn't always best. A much more powerful measure is something called variance. This basically tells us, on average, how far away each data point is from the mean. It's a really solid concept, but it's got this one weird quirk. So here's the deal with that quirk. The units get squared, which sounds kind of abstract, but think about it. If we're measuring friends, our variance is in friends squared. And, what even is a friends squared? It's not exactly intuitive, right? And that's what brings us to a way more useful measure, the standard deviation. It's the perfect solution. All we do is take the square root of that weird variance number, and poof, we're back to our original units. In this case, just friends, which is something we can all actually understand and interpret. Okay, remember how we talked about those extreme values, those outliers? Let's circle back to that idea because this is where all these different tools really start to show their true power. Let's ask the question again. What actually happens to all our summary numbers when we have that one user with, say, 100 friends? A huge, massive outlier compared to literally everyone else in the group. So, have a look here. On the left, you can see our data without that outlier. And on the right, we've tossed that one extremely well-connected user back into the mix. Now look what happens. Just look at this. That one single outlier drags the mean way up. It makes the average user look way more popular than they really are. But the median? It barely even flinches. It stays put, giving us a much more stable and frankly a more trustworthy picture of what the center actually looks like. And this is a really cool parallel. Just like the median is a robust or outlier-proof way to measure the center,
we have something called the interquartile range, or IQR, which is a robust way to measure the spread. What it does is genius. It completely ignores the crazy values at the very top and very bottom, and it just focuses on the spread of the middle 50% of the data.
So there you have it. That's your basic statistical toolkit. You've got the mean for a quick and dirty average, the median for a much more robust, honest look at the center, quantiles to map out the entire landscape, and for the spread, you've got the standard deviation as the common go-to and the interquartile range as its super robust outlier-proof cousin. So the whole point is this. The next time you're faced with just a list of numbers, you'll have the tools to go way beyond a simple average. You can start asking deeper questions and really find the story that's hiding inside the data. Hey, if you found this explainer helpful, it would be awesome if you'd like, share, and subscribe. We've got a lot more coming. Thanks so much for watching.